The command center fell into stunned silence as Petrov's words echoed off the reinforced walls. Children. Come home. The translation hung in the air like a death sentence, and Kael felt the fragment in his mind respond with a pulse of desperate longing. Outside, the zone's expansion continued its relentless creep toward the outpost. 2 meters per minute had become 3, then 4. Reality distortions that had remained stable for decades were collapsing and reforming in chaotic patterns. And through it all, Director Hallam smiled. Remarkable, she breathed, studying the data streams flowing across her tablet. 48 years of research, and we finally have direct communication with a primordial intelligence. Okafor stepped between her and the displays. You need to evacuate the facility. The expansion rate is accelerating precisely as modeled. Hallam's pale eyes gleamed with scientific fervor. This is exactly what we've been working toward. First contact with the intelligence behind the fracture. First contact. Sable's hard-like constructs flared with outrage. That thing is calling the fragments. Not talking to them, commanding them. The Russian's head tilted at an unnatural angle, his archive-consumed mind processing alien data streams. Clarification required, Petrov said in that layered, inhuman tone. The entity does not command. It summons. As parent summons child. As origin recalls scattered components. Blood was flowing freely from his nose now, staining his uniform collar dark crimson. The archive integration was consuming him faster than ever. Kael could see fragments of the man Luca had been flickering behind those white eyes like dying embers. Jesus, Ren whispered, staring at his readings. His neural patterns they're not human anymore. Ghost materialized beside them, her form unstable with agitation. And that's what you want for Kael? For all of us? What I want, Hallam said coldly, is to prevent the extinction of our species. The barriers between dimensions are failing. The entity in the zone core isn't our enemy, it's our only warning system against what's truly coming. The fragment stirred in Kael's consciousness, confirming her words with reluctant agreement. Hunters approach. Primordial entities serve as early detection. Cooperation advisable. But cooperation meant surrender. It meant walking into the zone's heart and letting the ancient intelligence claim him like it had claimed Petrov. It meant losing himself piece by piece until nothing remained but alien purpose wearing his face. No. The word came out harder than Kael intended. I won't become that. He nodded toward Petrov, who was now muttering calculations in a language that predated human speech. The Russian had been brilliant, a tactical genius with 17 months of fragment integration. Now he was barely a shell, his personality consumed by alien knowledge. Hallam's expression hardened. You may not have a choice. The entity's call grows stronger with each pulse. Eventually, all fragments will answer. As if summoned by her words, another tremor shook the facility. This one didn't fade, it built, resonating through the concrete and steel like a tuning fork struck by a giant's hand. Summons intensifying, the fragment confirmed. Resistance becoming difficult. Kael pressed his hands against his temples as alien harmonics flooded his mind. The entity's call was seductive, promising belonging and purpose and an end to the constant hunger. All he had to do was walk into the zone. All he had to do was surrender. Kael. Sable's voice seemed to come from very far away. Your eyes, they're changing. He caught his reflection in a darkened screen. His irises were flickering between brown and silver, responding to the primordial intelligence's rhythm. We have to choose, Okafor said quietly. All of us. Follow Hallam's plan and hope we can maintain some shred of humanity. Run and pray the barriers hold. Or. He didn't finish, but Kael understood. The third option was fighting, against Hallam, against the core, against the entity itself. It was the choice with the lowest probability of survival. It was also the only one that let them remain themselves. Another pulse struck. Stronger. More insistent. Kael felt his resistance cracking like ice under pressure. Fragment translation detected, the intelligence whispered urgently. Additional signatures approaching. Multiple fragment bearers in zone perimeter. Ghost, he managed through gritted teeth. Your scanner. Check for. Her eyes widened as data flooded her display. Jesus. There are 3 signatures moving through Sector 4, strong signals. They're not core. Which meant hollow collective. Which meant fragment bearers who had already chosen their path, and were coming to collect the others. The decision crystallized in Kael's mind like quantum ice. They couldn't run. They couldn't surrender. They had to go into the zone themselves, not for Hallam, not for the entity, but because the answers they needed were buried in that primordial intelligence's ancient memory. We go in, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his head. All of us. We find the truth about what's coming and how to stop it. Ghost returned from her patrol just as he finished speaking, her face pale with fresh intelligence. I found the mirror, she announced breathlessly. Fragment 5. She's in the zone too. Her eyes met Kael's with grim certainty. And she's not alone, she's with the Hollow Collective.